Bob. My name is Mion. I'm the daughter of the man you shot 26 years ago. You are probably surprised that I, of all people, am writing you. But I'd like to finally have some closure. First and foremost, I want to let you know that I truly forgive you. We all grew up without our fathers, and that hole has impacted each of us in many different ways. It's been almost 26 years now. There's stories in the case that don't make sense to me, and maybe never will. Maybe we can keep somebody else from going through the experience that we had to go through. I will be in touch. Take care. Me own.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of C4 Podcast, Southeast Asian Athlete Achievement Through Adversity. My name is Ko Chandetka. I'm here with my co-host John Messina, and we have a great guest coming on today. If you guys haven't already, please like, comment, share, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Lao American Sports, website, Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. If you know anyone that you would think that would be a great guest who has gone through some type of adversity. And honestly, I don't know, there's a lot of us, but it's just that telling the story part is like what a lot of us, when I say us, I mean like Asian, Laotian, Southeast Asian, is that a lot of us were taught at a young age to just hold it in by our parents, not talk about it, sweep it under the rug. So, and me, I've gone through my share of adversity. I've been pretty open about it, and I know it's helped me a lot in my own personal life. So, yeah, if you know anybody that would be a great guest on the show, please send us a message. All right, without further ado, I will hand it over to my co-host John.
Yeah, so we have an exciting guest today, Rose Khun. This is going to be a little bit of an emotional episode for everybody. In particular, it's going to hit close to home for Ko. We'll get into that in a little bit. But before we dive into an interview with Rose, I'd recommend, if you haven't listened to episode 39 with Kenya Proch or episode 8 with Vanna In, you go do that, because Rose, we're going to touch on the surface of the Khmer Rouge and the killing fields in this episode. But with Kenya, he actually lived through it. He was severe, impacted significantly by it. He's the Bokator master that we had on. And Kenya has a book out, Blackstone Hands. I'm going to recommend, if you're looking for something to read, it's an excellent book. Talks about Kenya's journey from the killing fields, basically, through his athletic accomplishments, both in Cambodia and the U.S. And in fact, I finished reading his book on the flight to Cambodia last May for the SEA Games. And when I landed, I texted Kenya and said, "Hey, Kenya, it's very moving having read your story on my way to Cambodia." It was kind of ironic. I said, "I'm actually going to leave your book here because this story belongs here." And he said, "Hey, actually, I would appreciate if you do that. In fact, one of my close friends on the Cambodian Olympic Committee, if you could give it to him, I would appreciate that." So I actually went to the Cambodia Olympic office, which is right next to the Lao office inside the athlete village, and was able to pass that book on. And it just kind of was a very nice moment for Kenya and for me and everything. So please check out his book, Blackstone Hands, because he will go into much more detail than Rose will be able to on this subject. And also check out episode 8 with Vanna In. Vanna was part of the gang violence in Northern California back in the 90s, where this episode's going to take us a little bit too. He'll go into much more depth on that side of this story as well from his own experiences. But with that, we have Rose Khun today. Rose was born in the U.S., but her family came from Cambodia, experienced the Khmer Rouge and all that. Rose, maybe introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your family's background in Cambodia and coming to the U.S.
Yeah, so my parents survived the Khmer Rouge, and they came to America in 1980. They got sponsored and came from Thailand to Atlanta, Georgia. And when they got to Atlanta, Georgia, my father's godbrother was like, "Hey, there's a lot of opportunity in California. Won't you guys come and move here to California?" So my parents, got everybody, my grandma, grandpa, my aunt, and all the kids on a Greyhound bus. And when they were at the Greyhound station, my mom was like, "What are they drinking?" Because my brothers were thirsty. So my dad went to go figure out, like, okay, there's a vending machine, there's a bunch of sodas. So my dad, got some quarters, and they didn't know. He just, got I think a Diet Coke is what my mom said. So they got Diet Coke, and they were all drinking it. My mom took a sip and was like, oh, this is, nasty. But my brothers and dad drank it, and they end up all getting diarrhea.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, yeah. So and before that, when they came to America on the plane, my mom had two brothers, twin brothers. Knowing nothing about diapers or anything like that, the flight attendant gave my mom and dad two diapers for my brothers. And my parents didn't know what it is. So my mom and dad were inspecting, what is this thing? What is this diaper, right? So my dad, he said he figured it out. He said, oh, honey, it's a pillow. So they fold the diaper in half and put it on their neck, and they were just, laying down. They're like, yeah, that feels good, So, yeah. So, and then the flight attendant came by. They're like, no, 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 no. They had to show my mom and dad what a diaper was and put it on my brothers. Because, coming from Cambodia, they were poor. They didn't know what a diaper, they'd never seen a diaper before.
Right.
Yeah. So that's their journey, and how we came to end up in Modesto, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so then you enter the picture at some point. You're born, and tell us about your childhood up prior to your father's passing. Kind of what your childhood was like.
Yeah. So we, when we came to America, my grandpa, we were all Buddhists, but my grandpa converted into Christianity and became a pastor. So we grew up kind of going to church on Sunday. My mom was still a Buddhist. She went to church only on the holidays for like the potluck and stuff. But growing up, we had, the American dream, like got little Toyota little truck, and my parents worked on the farm, and my dad ended up being a community leader in Modesto and helping people apply for welfare or translate like documents to help the community there. I honestly thought my childhood was normal. It was fun. We got together, hung out as a family, did things together. So, that was, what I can remember so far.
Oh, yeah. Well, so then, it was obviously interrupted by your father's passing. Tell us about that day and what happened.
Yeah. So July 7th, 1990, my parents own a VHS video store in San Jose, California. So my parents were commuting from Modesto to San Jose. We were like raised, my grandpa and grandpa raised us at home while my parents went out to work. That afternoon, a group of 6 Asian gangs from Oakland, they came to my dad's video store. They scoped it out and was like, oh, probably easy rob. So that day, I'm just thinking if I should combine the two stories from, I'm going to do that. Who cares?
Yeah.
So what they did was they came into my dad's video store. The youngest was like, I think maybe 13 years old. And the oldest was 21, which was a driver. And then the shooter was 18. And this is 1990. So 3, I think it was like 3 went into the store and 3 was outside, like in the lookout, and 1 was the driver. Well, that's 7 people there. Well, I don't know. It's like, I'm not exactly sure.
Approximately.
Yeah. So when they went in, this is what I found out after writing him is, he went in and was like, say, boo, give me your money. So he's like, uncle, give me your money. And then my dad was like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And in that moment, my dad made a sudden movement and he shot my dad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how did the word spread to the family and stuff?
Um, so after that, I think he was trying to, what I knew that the kids and my grandparents, we were in Modesto. I remembered I was still playing outside because this is the summertime. And one of the neighbors, my dad's friend, shouted to the whole neighborhood, because we lived in a Cambodian neighborhood, was like, Kate Ban Puchonai. My dad is named John. So they said, my dad's been shot. And so the whole neighborhood, I just remember that day, everybody like came out and like, what happened? What happened? It was just all this commotion, like nobody knew. And I just remember that night, right? It was quiet. Our house was dark. The energy level was like so, it was dark.
Yeah.
It was dark. Yeah. Because for me, I was 7 years old. And my dad told me that when he come home, that he would teach me how to ride a bike, because that's what I wanted to do. I was like, "Pa, like teach me how to ride a bike," you know? And he was like, "Yeah, wait till I come back home." That day never came.
Wow. So yeah,
Wow.
for those who don't know, if you've read Ko's book, or if you watch his documentary, but Ko's sister was murdered back in the 90s as well, very tragically. So this, obviously hits close to home for him. He understands, probably I don't. I haven't gone through something, right, Ko, how the house would just feel dark. The whole family would.
I totally get it when she says the house was dark, because when I heard about my sister getting shot, my other sister, I have three sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So my middle sister called me on the phone, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And, back then we didn't have cell phones. We had landlines, right? So you hear it and you pick it up. And all I heard on the other side was my sister crying, saying, Dick is dead,
Mm-hmm.
So I got up and I went and, went to my sister's house, and like there were a bunch of us just sitting there. And yeah, it was dark. It was dark and it was quiet, except for the rain. That's something like I don't forget that night, was like it was just raining and storming, and all you could hear was the rain. We just sat in silence. We really didn't know like what to say. Death is any type of death is hard. Someone passing out of old age, or someone passing unexpectedly, that's hard. When that person was murdered, kind of like in your case too, Rose, that really it really makes it hard. It makes it hard. So, and I held on. I mean, long story short, I held on to a lot of anger, a lot of hate for a very, very long time. And it's funny because when I look up Rose's Instagram, there's a line in there that says healing. Is it healing after forgiveness? Right? You have that on your title, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how I healed. I had to forgive. So yeah, and the person that murdered her was her husband. That makes it even harder to digest.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was angry for a long time, and but the day I felt better when I was like I forgave him, and I realized, I don't know, forgiveness is for ourselves, right? It's really not for that person.
Yes.
It's not giving that person. It's not giving a person a free pass and saying, he did it, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's like I said, I was so consumed with anger and hate and yes, everything that's negative and dark, right? And yeah, but when I came around and forgave him, I started to heal. So
Yeah. And how long did
yeah,
that take you? Like how many years?
I was I was 21, 22 when we found out about this. Honestly, I'm 50 now. Okay, I was in my 50s. I
Yeah.
was in my 50s. That's almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Um, and what inspired me to seek forgiveness was, okay, so I'm going to go backwards a little bit, right? 1989. So there's my sister, Dick, her husband, and they have two kids. Okay. A little 10-year-old boy, and like Melissa was Eric, and Melissa was like 4 years old. In 1989, when I was 18 years old, again, getting that phone call from a family member, Eric just got hit by a car. So 10-year-old Eric is playing in the streets. I was guilty. I had a lot of guilt with this. I don't know if I shared it in my book, but he was playing with firecrackers that he took from my house, my room. And I, like, for the longest time, felt so guilty because if he had never, taken the firecrackers, he would be dead, right? I mean, that's what I thought. So that happens. So Melissa's an only child, and I guess 4 years later, what transpired, and we don't really know. We didn't see it, because Asians are so good at hiding it. They have
Yes.
painting that picture, everything's great, and that's what led to them. My sister wanted a divorce, and I'm just assuming he's like, well, if I can't have you, no one will, type of, you know, he had that type of attitude, and he shot my sister. Um, he even, like, Melissa was in the car. She was about at that time like 7, 8 years old, maybe 9. There are 5 bullets, so he took 3 shots at my niece.
Oof.
Like, one hit her stomach, one hit her hand, one like grazed her. Right, knowing that he only had 2 left, then he shot my sister, and then he shot himself. So it was just the way it happened was just like, it's like, what a horrible way to like see death. And I was like, again, Eric was my first, experience with death from a family member, and I was 18. So like, yeah, 4 years later, I was 21, 22, and just that, how it happened, and it's like, I don't know, it was such a shame. Um,
Yeah. So you carried a lot of guilt and shame
yeah,
growing up.
anger, a lot of anger.
Anger. Yeah. Yeah.
And I had
Yeah.
bodybuilding. I took it out of my bodybuilding. I devoted everything to bodybuilding. I don't know. I wanted to be a professional bodybuilder, and I dedicated it to my sister. So not always the best type of motivation. Be motivated for something because you're passionate and you love it, not because you're angry at the world. If I can offer any bit of advice.
Yeah. No, I was totally angry too. And I didn't know that that my anger was rooted in my dad's death. So growing up, like, there was a quote from Gabor Mate, and it was, if you don't heal childhood trauma, it shows up in your romantic relationship. And I remember my husband telling me that you have an anger problem. I was like, get mad at him, like, no, like, no way. But then I did not realize that this anger was rooted from my father's death until I did somatic breathwork, right? I think the second time I did somatic breathwork is where I tapped into, first it was anger. I was so angry, right? I was envisioning the picture. I was envisioning Bob, who shot my dad, in my mind. And I was like screaming. I was in rage. I was screaming in rage. And then, after screaming in rage and just being so angry, sadness came in. And I started crying, like bawling, like the depth of your soul, like sadness. I didn't know where this was coming from. And underneath that sadness was actually grief that I never grieved my father's death since I was a kid. So I had all this anger of hurt and pain that I grew up and didn't know where this anger and trigger would, like, just lash on people. And that's where I discovered, like, where my anger came from. It was, I didn't get to grieve my father's death. And that
so
was
you were how old when all this started to come together? Like, what age?
What age?
When you're
30.
noticing of the anger,
Probably in my 30s is when I started, notice things like, I am a little, like firecracker.
So would you say like from 7 to 30, you were maybe numb? Like you weren't
Yeah.
feeling at all?
Yeah. Because, after my father's death, like our family didn't talk about it, right? We just
Right.
kind of
Don't talk about it.
we don't
Yeah.
talk about it. So growing up, I learned to just suppress all my emotions,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
I see something fucked up, but I don't say anything. I'm just like, okay, just like you don't want to cause problems, like just be quiet. Don't cause any problems. And
Yeah.
then till I got older, when I was like, I have a voice too. Like, how come I cannot say anything? Because I grew up with my mom to say, don't let it go, let it go. Don't, just tuck it in. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Until I grew, in my 30s where I discovered like my voice matters too. I don't have, I got tired of just being quiet, not saying anything, not standing up for anything. So that's where I learned to like tap into, um, like my voice power, just like being able to, you know, get angry without anybody telling you like, oh, Rosie, stop being angry. What? Because when some people cry, they don't know how to hold that pain for people. So they just, oh, stop crying. You're fine. Right. Because underneath suffering, there's pain. And now when I see like my mom that's suffering, there's pain in there that she's unexpressed, that she hasn't, like, and just all of us, we know people suffering right now, and there's underneath of it is that pain. How can we tap into that pain? That pain is very uncomfortable, you know shame, guilt, like you don't want to touch it, you don't want to see it. That's why a lot of people numb themselves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. and
Well,
and,
and
and
the thing with,
go on.
I'm sorry. And the thing with our culture too is, okay, so we don't talk about it. And then for the ones that want to talk about it, nobody understands. Like if they don't
Yes.
feel it, they don't understand, right? Like I, dealt with addiction, depression, anxiety, and to everybody else that doesn't have it, it's like this invisible, I call it like an invisible injury because I'm
Yeah.
hurt, I'm broken, but I can't explain it to you guys unless you walked in my shoes and felt what I feel. It's invisible to you, so it's hard to get like, see, you finally have enough guts to, open up and talk about it. And then you feel like, and of course, like you're going to reach out to your close friends and family, right? When they don't get it, that's
Yeah,
that kind of,
absolutely. Because sometimes the people close to us, they don't know how to hold space for us because they haven't done their work. They haven't gone to the depth of what we've been through.
yeah,
Yeah. And
because they've been
I
numbing themselves too.
yes, yes. And then I read this quote yesterday. It's from Gabor Mate, and he says that if you want to understand somebody's addiction, you have to understand their pain, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I love that because there's so many of us addicted to all kinds of things. We live in a society right now that a lot of people are in pain.
Yeah, and Ko,
yeah,
especially you, because Ko, you were this professional athlete on the Mr. Olympia stage, right? To the outsider observer like me, I'd say this guy's on top of the world, right? And
yeah,
not understand like what's inside, right? Um, it's especially for somebody like you who was kind of a public figure and at that level. Um, but Rose, you did
well,
something. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, like when people say like they're fans, mean fanatic. I had so many fans that I thought were friends, and they were just fans. They're just fanatics. They cheered me when I was up, and nobody wanted to be near me when I was down. And that was a big thing. Like that, I was like, I couldn't understand that at all. Like I thought these people loved me, admired me, right? And then you open yourself up, and you're open, and people just look at you. They look. I mean, I got funny looks. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Well, that's hard.
Yeah.
So Rose, at some point through this journey, as you're discovering this, you actually decide to reach out to the perpetrator or one of them. I guess the person who pulled the trigger, there was a group of them involved, right?
Yeah.
How did you come to that point of actually doing that? Because that's a very big step.
Yeah. So, okay, I was at a point in my life where I dropped my daughter off at school, and I kept thinking to myself, I was just like in this era of like trying to discover who I am. Like, there's more to me. I just, I'm just like not a mother. Like, there's more. So when I was driving one day, because I kept asking the question in my mind, like, what makes me so different? Like, what is it that I want to do with my life? Like, who am I? And this voice came to me and said, forgive the man that killed your father. And I was like, what the fuck? Like I never thought about this guy at all. We left it, we never talked about him. So in that moment there, driving to the gym, my heart like lit a fire within me. This thing was like it just made my whole body like, oh my gosh, I want to know. Like, why did he go and shoot my dad? Like, why did this happen? And that led me to like looked up online, like trying to find like stories online about what happened that day. And then I figured out his name, and I look him up on the California prison, and found out like, oh, he's in this prison. And before writing him, that is when I had to go into my healing period, my healing journey. And that's when my father-in-law, he gifted me this book called Healing the Inner, Reconciliation, Healing the Inner Child by Thich Nhat Hanh. When he gave me this book, I was going through it. I was like, man, my childhood is fine. Like I didn't have my childhood was fine. Not knowing that he's seen something in me, that needed help. But his gesture was, oh, here's this book. I didn't read it, honestly. I didn't read it until later. And then when I read it, I was like, oh shit. Like everything was like hitting me. Like, like the little girl within me that I like abandoned and just, like left her alone. And it was a time of healing where I end up sitting down and writing out what happened that day. And me sitting and just writing out what happened that day, all these emotions came up. I started crying and just like bawling. It was like another layer of just a grief again. And after doing that, I meditated. Never meditated in my life. I started meditating in that period. And I was doing 20 to 30 minutes a day for like 3 months. Sitting with myself, sitting with all those emotions that I pushed deep, deep, deep down, all the guilt, all the shame, all the things that I fucked up back when I was younger. I had to meet with it. It came up through the meditation, and had to be there for, young Rose, whatever she was going through at that period. Instead of being so hard on yourself with guilt and shame and just like judging yourself so harshly. It was my first time being kind to myself, being kind to, those emotions that were arising, not judging it, being compassionate with it. So before I was able to forgive him, I had to forgive myself. And in that forgiving myself was like a release of energy that freed me. And then I was able to, write him a letter and told him, and I got closer with my mom by calling her, talking to her about, the past and what she's been through. I wrote him a letter, I think was like in February, saying, I forgive you. Me and my mom forgive you. I don't know the story, that what happened that day didn't make sense to me. So I wanted to get clarity. And I guess the prison put my letter on hold for like, I think 2 or 3 months. because they probably read it and was like, making sure if this was okay to give to him. I'm not sure. But I just remember that he said in the letter that when he got my letter, he just read the first part was like, hi, my name is Mion. I didn't tell him my real name because, it was just, I gave him my Cambodian name, like Mion. Hi, my name is Mion. I am the daughter of the man you killed. And that's all he read. And he closed it up. And he was walking back and forth in his prison cell, just in disbelief. In disbelief. I think I think he said it took him like a couple of days for him to be able to actually read my letter. And yeah.
And then after he did he reply back, or how did the dialogue start with you guys?
Yeah. He actually replied back, and I didn't give him my address. I gave him my sister-in-law's address. Um, and we replied back, and he said that he always wanted to apologize to my family, but he never had a chance to. So that gave him the opportunity to say sorry to my whole family. And after that, we started writing to each other, and we actually it was like a very spiritual friendship. He was, we're talking about our own healing journey. And for me, there was this one time where I was writing him, and I felt like, I don't know if you guys believe this, but I felt like my dad was writing through me of helping him, how can he forgive himself? My family, we're all okay now, but how can you forgive yourself?
Yeah. Did some of your family, were they kind of behind you in this? Because I could imagine, if it was my family, there'd be some that said, hey, no way, we're not forgiving them, don't reach out. Others would be like, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
Were there conflicts? Was it tough, or was
you know, with my brothers, they're all supportive. My oldest one, he said, if it was him, he wouldn't reach out and write to him. But he's like, but if you want to do it, go ahead, But they were pretty supportive.
Yeah, that's good. Wow.
Yeah, it's the Asian male, right? I mean, I'm not going to forgive that person. That's what took me 30 some years.
Yeah.
I'm a male. I'm a man. I'm like, how can I forgive this guy that killed my sister?
Yeah.
Right. But, I was talking about my niece, and every year on birthday and stuff, she wishes her mom birthday, happily heavenly birthday. I noticed too, she was doing it for her dad too. And that's when I started to think, wow, if this little girl, well, she's not little anymore, if this little girl can forgive, why can't I? Um, she was able to, yeah, she was able to forgive her father. Way, I don't know exactly when she forgave him, but I've never really talked to her about that. But it's it sure didn't take 30 years like me. And again, if I didn't see her post on Facebook and Instagram, every year talking about, just it's so sad, on August 28th, she has to talk about happy birthday to her brother, and then July 17th, she says that, rest in peace to her, her mother and father. And that's how that she did it. So why can't I? Right?
Mm.
And it's one, like you said, Rose, is really about looking at oneself. I remember I was living in California. I wanted to be this big bodybuilding star. And one of my closest friends, my dearest friend, even to today, he says to me, be kind to yourself, Ko. And I remember looking at him and laughing. I was like, what are you talking about, man? I'm on top of the world. I got a big show coming up, and I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna be that. What are you talking about? Be kind to yourself. I didn't get it. I was clueless for years, right? And then I went through my addiction and all that, and then I realized, yeah, I wasn't showing myself much love at all. You hear people talk, and your body, your body listens to what you say.
Yes.
You know, like it's if you're telling yourself, oh, you're not that great, you're not gonna be, or I suck, you are gonna suck. I hate myself. Then your body will answer.
Yeah.
And your subconscious, right, will get you, especially in the middle of the night, and you're not awake, but all those feelings come to you in the middle of the night, like through your dreams or whatever. I truly believe that, and it's just and you wake up like, why did I have this dream? Like, I've never felt that way, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot. I had a lot of anger inside me. I was like, yeah, you're right about looking in ourselves and healing first before we can heal others. In the same way that we have to love ourselves first before we can love someone else, right?
Yes.
It's so
Mhm.
like, yeah,
Yeah. It all starts with us, you.
yes, yeah,
Yeah. It's like, look in the mirror. That's who's responsible.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow. So, you're kind of moving forward with your life, and you've taken this whole journey and have a program with somatic breath work. Um, tell us all about that.
Yeah. So somatic breathwork is designed to clear out the pressure, the trauma stored in the body. Because stress and trauma is the response of our nervous system to the event that happened to us. So a lot of the times the energy becomes trapped in our body. So soma means body. And by doing somatic breath work, it helps you release this energy through expression. And expression is the release of the stored energy. So it's like an imprint, right? So when my dad passed away, it left an imprint, an energy that was stored in me. And that energy was stored really deep, deep down inside. Like I wasn't able to release this energy of what happened. So this will help you become aware of like the repressed stored tension in your body. You can call it like internal pressure, trauma, negative beliefs. It's the energy that the breath work is going to help you discover what you're holding on to. Or sometimes it's preventing you from being your best self. So beyond just making you aware of what you are carrying in the body is an opportunity to let go. So this can be during the breath work, it could be like a physical, emotional, spiritual, or a mental process. There is like no wrong or right way of doing the breath work. But sometimes when you get into the breath work, some people start crying, yelling loudly. They're releasing this physical experience, and it's like coming into the body, and you're expressing it out by crying, yelling, like shouting, punching into a pillow. Is this energy that we suppress, And when I was doing the breath work, it transformed my life. In this room, we're all doing breath work. You have, one girl screaming, "Don't touch me, don't touch me." And then there is another person screaming, "Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me?" And it's just all this energy. So in this moment, when you're doing this breath work, everybody is going through something. Everybody has something that they experienced in the past that wasn't able to release this energy out. And when you're able to release this energy out, like you become clear. So it's uncomfortable in that moment because it's designed to be uncomfortable. And in that discomfort, you have the opportunity to clear what you've been suppressed. And for me, I was able to clear this underneath anger. And underneath this anger was actually sadness. And this sadness was, I wasn't able to grieve my father's death. And let me tell you, it is so freeing to be able to let this energy that consumed you, and it's heavy.
How did you find out about that? Like, is this like, do you have a mentor, or was there some schooling involved? How did you learn about somatic breath work?
I actually did like this course online. They're like, oh, like 21 days to manifest your, whatever you want in life. So I was like, I joined that. And then they had this breathwork person there. And the first time I did the breath work, I was too in my head. I was thinking like, oh, this is stupid. Look at the way I'm breathing. I'm like, I was judging myself too much. So I wasn't able to tap into, into the body. And then the second time I did it is where it clicked. And it like I died. The old Rose died that day, and I was like was giving like a new life. Like we all have this chance to be reborn. Like we are reborn every day. Like me, you,
Mhm.
we're not the same person as yesterday. We weren't the same person as, last year. We have this opportunity right in front of us to make the change that we want to see in the future. We're born new every day. Like we have, yeah, if you just give yourself the opportunity and chance. I don't know where I'm
Yeah.
going with that.
Yeah. So you actually lead, do you lead? So now you're kind of a, I don't know what the right word would be, like a sensei or something. But you
uh,
lead, you train, right? Also in it?
yeah, I'm just a practitioner.
A
Yeah. So
practitioner. Okay.
yeah. So I do like a women's retreat. We went to New Mexico. We did a women's retreat on breath work, and then we do corporations like men, they coming
Oh,
together. So it's like personal development. It's like another layer of just, for the corporations when they brought their men in, is to help them. Like they want to grow their company. And if they want to grow the company, the workers, they have to develop themselves too. So for us to come in and do the breath work, it helps develop the person, each and every one of them, to just, there's more to me. Oh shit, I've been, I could have made more sales by, it just,
hmm.
it's just you tapping into you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I mean, everybody's got their own battles inside, their own trauma, but it does not have to be something like murder. It can just be, say,
Yeah, just
job
daily.
related stress, right?
Yes.
Relationship stress, right? That
Yes.
you're trying to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just everyday stress. I mean, I still do breath work, and it's like every time I do it, something different comes up. Yeah. So I just do like at the local gym here, I do breath works. I host breath works every so often, and I do it online.
And how has your response, Bill? Because the response been, because this is relatively new, right? I mean, it's like there's people that I think one, that person has to want to change, right? For
Yes.
anything to work, right? Therapy isn't going to work. AA meetings aren't going to work. Going to see your doctor, nothing's going to work until you look in yourself and says, I need to change, right? But what type of response were you getting from, like for these men, from the professional men? What type of response were you getting?
Yeah. It was funny because these guys were like in their 20s, like they're like uh uh
Nothing
regular,
wrong. Yeah, they're
yeah, just
studs.
like regular dudes, just
Yeah.
regular dudes. And then for them to come in, it's like, with therapy, like you got to talk. With somatic breath work, it's like, no, you have the own tool. Like you have the power within you to work it. Because we all have that gift. We all have that power to tap into ourselves, because that's where our own wisdom comes in, versus somebody telling, oh, you do this, this, and this, versus how about I help you discover your own answers. It's more empowering when you find your own answers of what you're searching for.
Hmm.
And and everybody is different. I had this young kid, like, well, not young, like 21 or something, and he was in the group with full of women. He was I was surprised. Like he was the first one to actually just started like crying, you know, for this guy to be in a group of women. And then to realize afterwards, he just said that when he was younger, he always felt alone. So in this breath work, he was able to tap into that little kid that was,
Mm.
was abandoned, and he was able to nurture his little, his the inner child. It was just so beautiful. I was like, wow, you
Yeah,
know,
that's awesome. That's really awesome.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
especially we come from a culture, again, coming from a culture that sweeps it under the rug, and like our parents, we could run home and tell them this happened at school. They're just like, deal with it.
Yeah.
This kid's picking on me. This kid's beating me up.
Yeah.
Deal with it. Because
Yeah.
they had
And
their own problems, right? They had their own trauma to deal with, right? Like they
yeah.
came from the war. My dad has probably seen a lot of like his friends die and stuff. And so just because some kid picked on me in first grade, to him, it's just like, just deal with it, man. You know.
Yeah.
So,
And so when you were in your 50s and started healing, what was your process of, what made you be like, oh, I'm tired of living the life that you lived, and what made you change?
so my father, he passed away in 2017, and he's buried here in the same town, like right across the river. So I always go and see him. So there is my father's burial grounds, and in the same cemetery, like a distance away, is my nephew Eric, his burial ground. And for some odd reason, he's buried next to his father. Okay. So my sister is buried. Her remains are at a temple in another city, and I don't know. We're trying to bring her back here, but that's another story in itself. But I never went to see my nephew because his father was there. And it's like one day I'm visiting my dad, and then I swear I heard like someone says, go visit Eric." So even though I had to see, so I went, I visited Eric. I'm looking straight at him, and like, to the right's his father. I'm not even looking over. I'm just looking at him, and I'm talking to Eric and all that. And I turned over. I turned over to his grave, and I was like, man, you know what? I was like, I couldn't even imagine how you're feeling to do what you did. And as that point, that point that, what, I had to let it go. He had his own grief. Somehow it was the end of the world to him. Somehow his wife leaving, his son dying, it was the end of the world. I mean, who's for us to say, to tell you don't feel that way? I mean, we're allowed to feel however we feel. So I just kind of saw it from, his point of view, and yeah, it was then and there that I forgave him.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you were saying that, what your brother-in-law been through was like the end of his life, like for me to forgive Bob, like I read about his past, like he was in this book. So, and he came from the Khmer Rouge too. So, and he's seen his sister get killed and, living a single mom, living in Stockton, and was trying to find like his homies, was getting bullied, that's how the gang part came in.
Uh-huh.
But to look back at their childhood and see the trauma that he's been through, to see, was helped me to, it was an understanding and compassion for him. Like, oh
Yes.
shit,
Yes.
he,
Yes.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty intense, from both of you. Well, Rose, where can people learn more about the somatic breath work and your business, and also, all of the other things that you're kind of doing with your social media, YouTube, etc.?
Yeah. You say where you
Where
can find
can
me
they
on
find you? Yeah.
Instagram at the Rosie Rose. That's where I'm at, and I started doing YouTube. For now, starting off, I'm still trying to figure out my way, but what my inspiration for YouTube is actually leaving, like what you guys are doing, like leaving a legacy behind. For me, is YouTube is a legacy for my kids. So if I'm gone, there's going to be videos of me forever living that they can watch. Hey, you miss mommy? Go watch her video. You're feeling sad? Go watch her videos. Like that's what I love about YouTube. It lives forever. And what you guys are doing here is amazing, And so there's a quote.
What is the name of your YouTube channel? What's the name of it?
It's just the Rosie Rose.
The Rose Rose? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, You know, I'm still trying to figure out like my lane, you know, like, okay, what do I like? But I have to start somewhere. If I don't tap in and start, like I would never know. I could just sit back and wish like, you know, but it's like have the courage to just try something out, even if it sucks or whatnot, like just give it a try, you know? But last night when I was reading this Gabor Mate, I love that guy. He said, life is an act of courage. And the greater the courage, the greater the life. And when I read that, I'm thinking about you two here, John and Ko, because you guys are two courageous men coming together, building this, you know, platform. And you guys are spreading this awareness of like really a goodness out here. So like the work that you do, and you know, I don't know your story, John, but for you guys to be here that's a lot of work within yourself to be here today. So I'm seeing two courageous men right now.
Oh,
and John, I was looking at your picture. I was like, I never seen anybody's bicep so big. It was like a mountain on another mountain.
I'm not like, me. What? Just to be clear, you're talking Ko.
Yeah.
You said John. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
I was like, wait.
Well, to me. Yeah. It's been quite a journey. I mean, we just realized what's it been? The 50 episodes? Like, is that like
we're this will be 50. This will be 52 right here.
Oh wow!
Yeah, we're a little over, right about 2 years actually. Right about 2 years.
2 years. Yeah.
This month we've been doing the podcast. We started the Hall of Fame, the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame, before that, to recognize athletes, and then Ko came up with this idea, which was great because we wanted to, like you said, it's leaving a legacy, and not necessarily for the two of us, but a lot of the athletes we interview, right? They're not all household names, but they have incredible stories, and this is a way that they could get their story out there and have it heard.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Yeah, thank you for letting me share my story too.
Yep, for sure. Well, good. Well, hey, we really do appreciate you coming on, Rose. This was a very incredible story. We'll put links to her Instagram, website, everything, her YouTube channel in the show notes, both on YouTube and on the podcast platforms. So click on one of those and follow Rose, because I think there's a lot of more great stuff to come out of you, Rose, with where you're going with this whole thing. So, Ko, anything else?
No, thank you so much for sharing such a difficult story. Again, like no one would blame you if you never talked about it, right? We come from a culture that's just like, well, we never talk about it, so no one would ever, at least in our culture, would say anything. And I think it's brave. I know it is brave. I know it is brave for you to come out and to talk and to share, and for you to reach out to Bob, and that takes a lot of strength.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. That's another episode of the C4 podcast. Please follow the show, share it with your friends, and we're out. The C4 podcast is brought to you by the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. Visit us on the web at laoamericansports.com, celebrating the first, inspiring the next.